Hey guys, it's Tom Higgenson from the band Plain White Tees, and this is I Effin' Love That Song podcast. Each week I'll have an amazing songwriter join as a special guest to discuss their stories behind some of your favorite hit songs.
Hanging out with Zac Barnett, the singer of the American Authors. Amazing guy, written songs like Believer, Go Big or Go Home, and my personal favorite, Best Day of My Life. I fucking love that song. I'm jealous because that song will be around forever, and it's just so good, and it's so catchy and so hooky. It's like the kind that makes you feel good, and obviously it's not easy to write a song called Best Day of My Life and get away with it.
I remember like after we finished it, we all looked at each other thinking like, oh my God, I can't believe there's never been a best day of my life. It was like, oh my, that's insane, right? It's such a title right there that
Totally.
you hear people say every single day. We didn't come about the song going, holy shit, what if we did Best Day of My Life as a title? It didn't come that way. It was more of one of the things where we had the melody and I was just riffing on like, I'm gonna get a best day on my sky. And our producer pointed it out, like, dude, did you just say best day of my life? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And it was like, oh, that's cool. Let's keep that. So it was like, we didn't even think of it as,
Wow.
hold on, I got this crazy title, check it out. But then afterward, we were like, God, how come that title has never been taken? So
that's crazy.
Yeah, man, it worked out in a cool way with that.
So you wrote it like in the studio? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. I'm gonna give you the real ass 100%.
Yes.
Version.
There we
of
go.
How that song came up.
Here we go.
Because it's a funny story.
Perfect.
And at the beginning of American Author's career, we didn't tell this story, but I like it. I think it's really fun, so I like to spread it more now. So I'll spread it here, man. I'll spread the truth of this song, Best Day of My Life. American Authors had been a band since 2006 or 7, right? So we had been like putting out music and writing and recording and really just trying to make it as a touring band for a while because we didn't write Best Day till like 2012 or 2013.
Sure.
So the stage that our band was in like 2012 was we were like trying to be Coldplay, hardcore. We wanted to be like epic rock band, whatever. And our producer, Shep Goodman, who we were working with, he would always be like, why are you guys writing such sad songs? Just write happy songs. Like write something that's like cool and upbeat or yada, 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 or whatever. And when he said that, the first song that we ended up doing was Believer. It was like Believer came as like this screw you to our producer. I was like, okay, dude, you want something happy? Here you go. And I picked up a guitar and I played the he's like, yo, that's actually kind of dope. Then I was kind of like, I'm a believer and it's gonna be able to get better. He's like, did you just say I'm a believer that things will get better? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, that's dope. Let's keep going. So at that point, we were now kind of like, hey, this is kind of cool, whatever. So we were going into the studio now more kind of like building off this sound. And one of the days in the studio, not far after that, our producer was like, well, let me hear some songs that you guys have been working on. We played a few songs. And again, he's like, oh, guys, we just wrote this one thing that's so cool. And now you're just bringing me more of like these sad rock songs. And at the time, I think this was like 2013, and I had a friend who worked at Universal Records, and they had just signed Florida Georgia Line. Cruise like wasn't even out yet, but they had an EP that my friend was like, dude, you got to check this out. It's this country band that I was part of signing, and they have this EP, and it's like really cool. Kind of like rock or rap, but it's country. I'd never listened to country in my life. So I checked out Florida Georgia Line, and like, I lost my mind. I was like, this is so, I've never heard anything like this. This is so cool. So that night I was just in my apartment. The whole band was living together at the time, this little apartment in Brooklyn. And I was messing around writing joke country songs. I was trying to like write what Florida Georgia Line was doing on this first EP of theirs, you know, like all that rhythmic stuff. So James, our guitar player, came in and we kind of like messed around with some stuff, whatever. The next day we're in the studio. our producer is talking about how, oh, there's all just such slow, sad songs, whatever. And I go, okay, hold on. I have this other thing that we kind of worked on a little bit the other night, but just like, hear it out. It's kind of weird. So I played him this country song. And the pre-chorus of this joke country song, it went, ooh, everybody wanna be the my life. Like, it was like that. And that was the pre-chorus of this, essentially this joke song that I was ripping Florida Georgia Line off. And our producer goes, yo, that pre-chorus was sick. What was that? I was like, even like trying to do, I do a terrible country voice. I've tried to sing country like when I'm just trying to like write other styles, and my voice sounds so bad in country. Maybe that second time back, just like jamming on it, he goes, whoa, did you just say best day of my life? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, that's dope. Like, and what if we chopped up the who's, because you're doing like that long held out thing? What if you go, who, this is going to be the best day of my life? And then what if we do a choppy at the end, like, la, I.
So your producer basically is the musical genius.
You know what? I'll definitely say his name, Shep Goodman. I mean, he's my mentor. He's our mentor. You know, we've worked with him for a long time. He was one of the first people to really like take a chance on our band. And he's been there for so much. I will definitely say he is an incredible writer, but I think what Shep is so good at is he used to be an A&R for Motown. And
awesome.
I think what he's so good at is recognizing great parts and great songs and talent on all levels. So I think it was really, really dope having him there when we were experimenting and going in for just trying to come up with something new and fresh and cool. And he was really good at taking and choosing little parts and helping mend them together.
Sometimes you need that guy, just the editor, just sit there and say, wait, that part, this
huge.
part.
It's huge. And it's huge too to have it as like an outside producer. Because I think especially in a band situation, you can really fall into the like, everybody thinks they're the producer and you're all equals. So it can be tricky to kind of recognize those things. And everyone has emotions towards songs. So you can really fall into clouded view sometimes. Whereas like having that outside person, it can be really helpful. I always tell people, like when people will ask, what are some tips you have for songwriters or whatever it is? It's like, I'll always say, just keep writing and don't be afraid to collaborate, because it's so huge. Being able to collaborate with other people and having them give a fresh take on maybe an idea that you've had it's insane. It can just flip everything.
Totally. Another thing, I feel like anything that I write, I think is genius, right? Until I have to play it for somebody else. And then I know. Then it's like, ooh, I feel so stupid singing this line, or I just even thinking it, I'm like, this is so lame. But of course, sometimes once in a while, you're like, oh, this is badass. And it feels so good when you show it to somebody. All the stuff I write, I really don't know for sure if it's good or not until I play it for people. And it's not even about what they feel. It's like how it makes me feel while I'm playing it.
So true. And, you know, once we kind of got that chorus idea flowing, it was like another week on that song before we finished it. It was like rewriting lyrics, rewriting parts. The bridge was originally the verse idea.
Oh, wow.
I
Cool.
hear it calling outside my window. I feel it in my soul. That was my original verse idea. There was a ton of stuff like that where it was rewriting and changing around parts and coming up with new parts and different things. And so it was not written overnight. It might have even taken more than a week to finish it. And even once it got to a point of completion, nobody knew that it was dope. And we all kind of thought it was weird. We were like, it's okay. It's kind of weird. It wasn't even the single. When we signed, because Believer and Best Day were the two songs that got us our record deal and kind of got everything popping off. Best Day was not even the single. That was not even what got us signed. It was Believer being played on Alt Nation and like getting picked up by alternative radio. That was really the main factor in the popularity of our band. Best Day getting TV and movie syncs was just like a little icing on the cake. I agree. There's so many times where I'll play songs back and then I'm like, ooh, this is not as cool as I wanted it to be. Right? I have that feeling too. I'll have a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't know that a song is cool until I play it live. And like when I play it live, if I get a great reaction, that's how I know. I, no joke, think that is the biggest load of shit. For me personally, bro, that is just some bullshit. Like, and people are like, well, that's not fair to say. It's like, dude, it's so fair to say because like the first few American Authors tours, we were playing Best Day like fourth in the set. The crowd didn't go any crazier for that song versus like the third song in the set or whatever.
To support your theory here, I would go farther. How many bands have you seen live that blow your mind?
Yeah.
And then you get the album or you listen to the songs and they're complete shit.
Totally.
Right? You can't tell anything by the live show.
I mean, look, I'm not going to name songs from American Authors, but there have been songs that we've released that are not my favorite. But one of the deciding factors on why I thought it was a good idea to put it out was because, like, well, look, we're going on a tour. We need this kind of song in our set. And I think I can guarantee that if we put this out and then we're playing it live, it's going to crush. It's going to crush in a live scenario. Recording, take it or leave it, not my fave, but live, it's just going to bring the house down. And yeah, I mean, your thing with Hey There Delilah is just the craziest shit in the world.
Yeah, that's a weird one because it's like totally not the way our band was or sounded. Every album we would have this like acoustic song. And it seems like those were always the ones that just for some reason connected. So
that's
I
awesome.
don't know. I think our next album is going to be a full album of like acoustic based romantic songs,
Yeah.
which we probably should have done like 10 years ago. But,
Man, I have so many of those. Like, oh my God, why? These are the biggest things that I think about today. I'm like, I've been thinking about them for years, but it's like, why did we not start like a children's TV show called Best Day of My Life with the American Authors? Why did we not start like a hard seltzer company called Best Day of My Life Hard Seltzer? We had so many ideas. We have so many ideas now about that where it's kind of like, well, the song's old enough where it kind of wouldn't really be as relevant or work as well. But like, I think about those things all the time.
dude, I don't know. One thing I've learned from Hey There Delilah, it's like kind of never goes away. We were pitching a TV show like a year and a half ago. I don't think it's too late at all, dude. Best Day of My Life is still out there. People love that song. With songs like that, the life is forever. Those songs just seem to connect in a very magical way with people. So it's like, I think that anything you want to do, you should just try to develop it and do it,
Well, you're hearing it first here. We have talked about these ideas as a band, so maybe it's not too late. We'll see.
I love it, man. I always think like I'm a big movie buff. So I'm always thinking of like, man, I want to write a movie or a musical or something like that. And it's like, you never know when some idea is going to morph into something, or it's not quite going to go this direction, but it becomes something else. It's like being creative.
Incredible TV idea, by the way.
Oh, hey, thank you. I mean, apparently a few networks didn't think so, but maybe we're just pitching it wrong,
Someone just did this, no? There's like a network series that's created based off of the lyrics from a song.
No way.
Or
I mean, I could
like
see it.
Dolly Parton, like she had that show where it's like it was a mini series on Netflix where I think every episode was a different song. Dude,
that's cool.
This is your time, man. The timing timing that plays into everything.
Of course, absolutely. And it's like the right idea. It's like maybe we had the right idea, but it wasn't developed quite right, or it was missing something. I think one of my greatest, I guess, assets or talents or whatever is like brainstorming. I can come up with 30 really bad ideas, but there's going to be one great one in there. I'm a big fan of bouncing ideas back and forth. So for me, like to be able to do that with Hey There Delilah, like a TV show, it was really fun. And like I said, maybe we just didn't hit on the home run idea yet, but the thought is there and the potential is there for sure. So we'll see.
Yeah, man.
Well, I was gonna mention about the bridge. It seemed like it's funny that you wrote it as the verse, which totally makes more sense now because Okay, I was going to talk about the verse and the bridge, so I guess I'll just throw it all out there at you.
Cool.
So the verse
Yes.
higher than the chorus.
Oh, dude, isn't that funny? We all met at Berkeley. So we all went there, we all dropped out. But yeah, dude, I was a songwriting major. And God, I always think about Best Day, and I think back to when they would put sheet music of songs up on the wall for everyone to see, and they would specifically point out, like, well, you know, what makes this song great is the verse is down here and the chorus jumps up. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I totally get that. Like every Fall Out Boy song and like the majority of songs I love. But I always think about how it's like, well, that rule was, my band is now like poster child for breaking all traditional songwriting rules. I've thought about these, dude. Yeah, it's like the verse is higher than the chorus, and there's parts where we go from I to we, which is like another songwriting no-no.
Ooh, totally.
Sure, I had a dream so big and then a dream so high I touched the clouds. I stretched my hands out to the sky. We danced with monsters through the night. Right? And like,
yeah, that's okay. That
songwriting 101, like a lot of the time would be like, well, who's the we versus the I that you're talking about everywhere else?
Sure.
There's a lot of those little things in there that I remember in college, the professors being like, stay away from this and stay away from that. So,
wow.
Yes, the verse is higher.
But it's funny that now I know that you wrote the bridge as the verse, because the bridge is a little bit more chill, and that makes sense that you would have thought that was a verse.
Yeah.
I love both. I love every part of the song. It's so great. If you just had the chorus, this is going to be the best day of my life. Like we talked about before, that's a little bit light. You wouldn't think to write that song because it's just is so happy and it's so optimistic. Our sad artistic ways wouldn't think to do that. But I kind of feel like these other parts surrounding it make the chorus okay, because you have this verse that is da 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 da, you know, it's up there and it's anthemic and it's strong. That makes the chorus feel okay. And then you've got this bridge with these Beach Boy harmonies, this really beautiful bridge. It's a great departure, but it's still hooky and catchy on its own. That makes, when you come back to the chorus, it's okay. And you've got that little guitar part, even that you know, that weird note, like that helps. Yeah,
there's a lot of imperfections on this song, dude, straight up. It's like, it can be hard for me to listen back to it because I notice like, oh my God, my vocals are not tuned in parts. There's like these little subtle imperfections that I do think help the song
totally
not fall into cheeseball land. We were not thinking about that at the time. I think it was just trying to come up with the most cool and fun parts that we could. And yeah, it's one of those freak of nature songs where it all clicks.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I love about your writing and just your band in general, I've always admired the hookiness of it. And I know that can be, again, in the cool band guy, you know, world, it's not always cool to be super hooky or to be super catchy or to be super obvious with things. But me as a writer, I'm the king of O's, you know, like just O's and hooky parts just for the sake of being hooky. Because if you've got something important to say, I feel like a couple little hooky moments just drag the ear in so that then they hear the important stuff. Yeah. And so I've always been a fan of the way you guys write and craft your songs in general, because every part is very catchy, and it's catchy just to the point where I'm like, damn, that's got me. But it's like, man, these guys just have a really well crafted hooks, are not afraid to exploit the hook.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
Thanks, dude. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think we just try to make every part count, you know, and whether it's a hook or a really great visual lyric, I think that's so important in a song. Once you compile a discography and now you're writing and doing it on a professional level, you have to be thinking about these things more, where now I look at a song that I'm working on, I go, okay, what's the importance of this? What's the importance of this part? What does this part bring to the table? What does that part bring to the table? And I think we all think that way because we're like, this band's pretty different where we all write together, like, and we'll write together from just square one. So it's super clear. Best Day, even though it was like, it started from a joke country, no lyric, random little melody. Like, that's almost as square one as you can get, is just like being in the room and
Sure.
like jamming it out.
I was going to bring up James actually because his instrumentation, especially with all the banjo-y kind of stuff he does, it's funny like hearing the story of the song because in my mind I'm like, okay, started out with the little banjo line, and then the melody came. In my mind, I would have pictured
Right.
it being differently.
I'm gonna let you know.
So yeah, oh please, yeah.
Before Believer, James did not know how to. He didn't know how to play banjo.
No
He
way.
didn't know how to play banjo or mandolin or none of that, man. He was a guitar player. He is a guitar player. He's a killer guitar player. And we were talking, it was with Believer, where we were just kind of like experimenting with sounds. And we were talking about like, hey, is there like a funny instrument we could put into this song? Because even like the riff of Believer, I wrote it on an acoustic guitar.
Sure.
What's like something funny that we could put in there instead of a guitar? And James had just found a banjo under his then girlfriend's bed.
Huh.
He's like, well, I found this banjo. I could bring that tomorrow. And we're like, okay. And so he brought that the next day. He like practiced the night before the studio, brought it in, just like knowing enough of the banjo to like play the riff. And then as the days went on, he taught himself how to play banjo. He would just like watch YouTube tutorials and just like practice finger rolls and just like go to town on it. So then it's like when we wrote Best Day, we had now incorporated the banjo into Believer. So then we brought that in. When we kept going, it was like, what's another funny instrument? Like, oh, well, I have like this old mandolin laying around. So then it's like, teach yourself how to play mandolin. And then like, it just kept going and going. It got so far of like silly instrument land that there was a moment where James bought an electric oud, which is a Middle Eastern instrument, and we were trying so hard to fit an oud into a song, and it never worked. I don't know where that damn oud is now, but we were like trying everything, every interesting tonal string instrument. It was just such an experimental time for us, like figuring out what our sound is going to be.
There's like magic in that. At that moment, you're creating it. You have no walls. You have no boundaries. It's like, well, nobody knows us yet. We don't have any hits yet. We can kind of do whatever we want to. Like, let's just have fun. Let's do things that, again, like what would be funny? Oh, put a banjo in, and look at it now. Like the uniqueness of that at that time is what helped you guys stand out and help those songs do what they did,
Completely. Yeah. Dude, it was massive. So
it's like we forget, like you were saying, like, yeah, once you kind of have a hit and you become a professional songwriter, you kind of, not that you lose a little bit of that, because obviously the more you write and the more experience you have, you become wiser, I guess, know what you're doing a little bit more. But I think there's definitely a beauty in not knowing what you're doing. There's a little bit of beauty in happy mistakes and making it up, on your way kind of a thing.
Dude, it's so true. It's crazy. Yeah, maybe that was the recipe for success. You never know. You don't want that. You hope it's not that, but
yeah.
Maybe.
I was telling you, I follow, I'm a big art fan.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of artists that I follow that have recently been painting with their left hand. Like to just try to like, okay, completely unlearn all of their techniques and patterns that they fall into, just like we would writing songs. And, just trying to do it with the left hand and just being completely terrible, but enjoying that, the challenge of it and learning it again.
It's funny that you bring that up because I have a bunch of buddies who are producers and they switch DAW systems to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I got a couple buddies right now and they just switched from Logic to Ableton. And I asked them, like, why are you doing this? Seems annoying. And they go, well, it's a different enough layout where I don't have my presets, I don't have my same plugins. It allows me to be more creative and to use these new things that I normally would not use on Logic or whatever, because they're just so familiar with what they already have. So
sure. Yeah. And not knowing something, you're forced to figure it out and you're forced to stumble upon things that you would have never even thought to try.
Of course.
Awesome. That's smart. I'm not a good piano player at all, so I've tried to sit
That's
down and
fun.
kind of fumbling through it and write a song on piano.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I always find it never translates well. I'll go to grab a guitar and play it, and it always sucks. I don't know. I haven't had luck doing that yet. But
I hear that, man. But yeah, getting on a different instrument, that is a big one. If you're a guitar player trying to write a song on a piano or vice versa, it's like, that's always a good one. That's always a good way to kind of get out of your songwriting comfort. And
yeah, and even if it sucks, it's like it just breaks you out of that mold for a second, so you
yeah,
can get back to
my biggest thing right now is because of quarantine's been a cool time for me to get back to writing by myself. Because I haven't done that.
Yes.
Because our band we are just such a unit. It's like the process is very, very collaborative. So it's like quarantine. It's like, well, look, I have these ideas. I might as well just start putting them down myself. And so like working more on producing out tracks myself has been awesome. That's been a really cool way that I've been trying to grow myself. But also
Mhm.
like, gaining ideas. I'll just sit down at the kitchen table in the morning and I'll just open up Splice and go through samples. And I'll just click through all morning. And there's been a ton of days where I've like, whoa, that's so cool. And like instantly I'll get inspired from something. I'll like get inspired with like a lyric or a melody from it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've actually been doing the same thing, not on Splice, but just with the guitar. But I have a 10-year-old son,
Oh, wow.
and basically ever since he was born, I haven't really found the space. Like when I was growing up, it's like that's all I did was sit in my room and write songs. Like
Totally.
I wrote Delilah in my mom's tiny apartment when nobody was home, just sitting there playing by myself. So ever since my son's been born, I've done a ton more co-writing because when I'm home, it's like I'm just naturally want to be
Bring that.
100% dad mode. Yeah. So to write a song, I've had to go to Austin where Tim, our guitar player, lives, write with him. I'll go to LA, write with some friends out there, Nashville. And it's like that's how the past couple of Plain White T's albums have basically been written. There's been a few where I've banged out on my own in there, but the majority of the last few records have been co-writes because I just kind of had to get out of my home to be able to get into that zone. And like you just said, dude, like quarantine, everything is so chill now that
Yeah.
I'm starting to really find my rhythm again. And I'm writing so much more personal and comfortably. I literally feel like I'm 22 years old, sitting here, right here on this couch, just writing some really cool shit. I haven't had this feeling in freaking 10 years and
I
15
love
years.
it. Wow.
It's so cool. Yeah.
That's really cool. I hear you completely. I feel like I've stumbled upon like, I guess a writing style that has been inside me and it's kind of tried to emerge, but it just kind of hasn't until now. It's come up and it feels really good. It feels fun and exciting. So I hear you on that, man. That's incredible. So yeah.
For sure. Well, I was going to say, I mean, we can wrap it up, but I was going to say one more thing just to tie it in, wrap it up with your song. I wake up every day, whether I'm on tour, whether I'm, sitting here in quarantine every day. So a little quick backstory. I'm going to do the long version of the story, but in 1999, I was in a really bad car accident
Oh,
and like basically woke up in the hospital the next day, should have died. Like I broke my back, I fractured, a few bones. It was just like a total miracle that I was alive.
wow.
And that gave me, of course, as it would to anybody, just a very new perspective of life and a new gratitude of life. And like I had to learn how to walk again. I had to wear like a back brace for 3 months and everything. But I would wake up every day in my mom's crappy little apartment that I wrote Hey There Delilah in. I would wake up every day and my first thought would be, thank you for this beautiful day. I could have totally just died and I didn't. So I better damn well appreciate every day.
Yeah.
And of course, then touring and you kind of lose that gratitude and things go back to normal, right? But over the past year or so, I'd say maybe year and a half, 2 years, that kind of has come back to me. And I still try to every day now that I've kind of remembered back then, that gratitude,
Yeah.
and just start my day with a thank you for this beautiful day. And I feel like it's important to acknowledge that you are alive, and to acknowledge that today, not to sound cheesy with your song, but like, this is going to be the best day of my life. Every day you're alive, man. It's a gift. Now, every day is not going to be the best day of your life, but if you at least acknowledge it, that it is a day and you are alive and it's going to be great, then chances are it will be. It's all about perspective, man. Best
Really?
day of my life, you know?
Yeah, dude. And having hope. We've always been a band that tries to spread the message of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's what Best Day really does. When you really actually tear Best Day apart and you look at what the verse is saying, it starts off with, I had a dream so big and loud. Really, it's talking about this dream world that's so exquisite. And the song is an escape. Like, we know you're going to go through tough times. We've gone through deaths, we've gone through loss. I'm saying us personally, like this band, we've gone through deaths, we've gone through loss. You know, we've dealt with tough times just like a lot of other people have. And it's about hanging in there and being able to have these ideas and having this hope where it's like, okay, today could suck, but at the end of the day, I see that light. I see what is ahead, and I can hold on to that. And it may not be tomorrow, it may not be the next week or month, but if I see that I have that little glimmer of hope, I can get there.
It's like, it's not saying this is the best day of my life. It's a foreshadowing. It's kind of like my thank you for this beautiful day. I say that at the beginning of the day, not at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this day is going to be awesome.
Yep.
And I think that going along with what you're saying with hope and optimism, it's like, you know, like The Secret, the law of attraction or whatever, right? It's like, what you put out, you get back. If you wake up and say, oh my God, today is going to suck so bad, I got to go do this, I got to go do this, chances are, if you're in that mindset, you're going to go through your day and it's going to suck.
Yeah.
You know? But if you wake up and say, oh, this day is going to be the best day of my life, like, oh, I've got to go do these couple errands, or I've got to do these things I don't really want to do. But like, hey, that's fine. Like, it's a beautiful day outside. And when I get done, I'm going to come home and be with my son, or I'm going to come home and make a great meal, or see someone I love. You got to find the beauty in life. And that's what makes it the best day of your life. That's what makes life worth living, the purpose. Bring it all back here.
All back in,
But
man.
But it's totally true, man. It's all perspective, and it's all just the way you look at it. And that's why maybe in the end, it's like that simple, this is going to be the best day of my life. This is the simple, the message that everybody should wake up and tell themselves and think every single day. And then they're going to have great days, because how could they not if you're in that mindset?